Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome all of you to our month of August Clarity of Mind through Mindfulness session. Although it is like a September 1st, we'll be having our September session at the end of this month. So with today, our topic will be the continuation of Kamma. So with great respect, I would like to invite Most Venerable Panadure Chandarathana Thero to commence today's session. Good morning, Bante. Thero and Sarnai.
Thero and Sarnai, hope you can see me and hear me.
Yes, Bante, we can see you and hear you.
Yeah, okay, fine. We are experiencing little rain here. So actually, Sri Lanka is expecting rain, but now it is little disturbing to our program, but I hope it won't disturb too much. So let's start the session then. Let me share the screen. So basically, we were discussing, as Shalika mentioned, about the Kamma, and to fair extent, actually, we have now completed that. Basically, today would be the last session on this particular topic. Hope you can see the screen.
Yes, Bante, we can see the screen.
Right. So basically, we have come a long path discussing various aspects of Kamma. And last time we discussed one interesting point, that is, if someone is saying that whatever someone is experiencing, either it is pleasant or painful, neither pleasant or neither painful, it is happened entirely because of the past Kamma. So that is sometimes people take wrongly, and Buddha basically deny that. Buddha mentioned that certain things, certain feelings happen due to various causes and conditions, and particularly various ailments are happening due to various reasons. So here I have summarized few according to this Sivaka Sutta. Buddha mentioned some are happening due to bile disorders, some are phlegm disorders, some are wind disorders, some are due to the imbalance of all three, and some can happen due to the change of the climate. And sometimes people get sick because of careless behavior. And again, someone else's assault or someone else's impact also can happen on ourselves for us to get in trouble. And on the other hand, the last reason Buddha mentioned here is the Kamma. So you can see it is quite difficult to understand. So what is the exact cause? So assume that we are going through a little bit of suffering. So immediately we can't attribute it to Kamma, because there are many causes and conditions. So you can see there are 8 causes here summarized, but there may be even some more. So how can we exactly say this particular experience I am going through is entirely due to this particular cause? It's a very difficult task. Actually, that is only possible to the Buddha, not even to the Arahants. So that's why it is quite difficult for us to determine what is the exact cause of a particular experience. But typically we say feelings are due to the contact. Contact causes feeling. But on the other hand, if we go a little bit further, there are many other causes, like Buddha mentioned in this Sivaka Sutta. So there are disorders happen due to bile, due to phlegm, due to wind, and the imbalance of all three. And again, climatic changes, our careless behavior, and due to certain influence coming from another person. So all these different reasons are there. And among them, Kamma is another reason. Now we are getting to another interesting, area. So typical understanding is that we say, okay, you need to do something good, something wholesome, then you may get the wholesome results, favorable results. On the other hand, if someone does some unwholesome activities, maybe bodily activities, maybe verbal activities, or certain thought-related, mind-related, mental activities, it can produce unwholesome results. So it is quite obvious, and this is a well-established theory, a principle, Buddha also mentioned. But on the other hand, we need to understand our life span is somewhat long, and again, what we have spent in the past is also very, very long. So we have went through innumerable number of past lives, and as a result of that, certain accumulated karma is also there. And again, in this life also, we are sort of going through various activities. Now, certain say complaint sometimes we receive is that certain people, even though they do unwholesome deeds, still they get a good results. Still they are doing really well. So how it can happen? So this is a very interesting question that sometimes we hear from various people. Because the typical norm, the typical principle is if something we do wrong, then immediately we have to get results. If someone is doing something wrong, immediately they have to get results, the bad results, the consequences. But sometimes we can't see that. We can see that they are continue to say have victories, have something beneficial or something favorable. So that is also we can see from the society. So now this is actually being answered in one interesting sutta where the Kamma is explained or analyzed in fair detail. That is in the Majjhima Nikaya 136th sutta called Maha Kamma Vibhanga Sutta. So there are situations, of course, if someone is doing unwholesome deeds, so they may get a unfavorable or unfortunate kind of a rebirth. That is quite obvious. We can understand what's the reason. So after death, he reappears in the plane of deprivation, the bad destination. But on the other hand, there could be another situation, even though they are doing something wrong, something bad, there could be a situation, they reappear in a favorable place, in a heavenly realm. So how can it happen? So that is because of many reasons. Actually, one reason is there could be a past karma, which is actually finding an opportunity to give the result. It is so powerful karma, by the way. Even though in the present life he was doing something bad, there could be a past karma he has done in the earlier life, earlier situation, which has a prominent effect. So that has given him a favorable result. On the other hand, even though currently he is doing something bad, closer to the death, there could be a change happen in him. So he has turned entirely his life towards the spiritual side, or he has become a good person, or something like that, or he had heard, say, a good Dhamma sermon, so that he has changed himself, or he met a Kalyana Mitta and he has changed himself. So getting closer to his, say, final ages, so he can change. So that is also possible. On the other hand, Buddha mentioned, while he is going through the death, there could be another change can happen. So he was with the right view while he is going through the death. Even though he was with wrong views, even though he was with doing some bad actions, there could be a significant change happen during the death moment. So that is also another reason. Due to all these possibilities, there could be a possibility, even though someone is doing something bad, so there could be a favorable life even in the next life. Now, that is very interesting and sometimes difficult to understand, but there are possibilities, and Buddha mentioned that in this Kamma Vibhanga Sutta. And the opposite is also true. Now, that is another interesting part. Now, assume that someone is abstaining from unwholesome deeds. He is not killing, he is not stealing, he is not engaged with sexual misconduct, he is not lying, and he is not using any intoxicants, and he is doing something good and something beneficial to the others. So all those that we know that the good deed, the wholesome deeds, is performing. So as a result of that, he is getting a favorable destination. A heavenly world is possible after his death. So that is quite obvious, and we all can understand that. But on the other hand, there could be another situation. Currently, even though he is doing something good, currently he is doing something wholesome, but still after that, he could get a unwholesome, unfavorable destination due to certain reasons. Actually, what we have mentioned in the previous slide, the opposite can be mentioned here. That is because during the death moment, he might have gone through something bad. His mind has completely changed and he is getting to the wrong views. That is one thing. He was with a good view and he was doing something good. He was doing something correct. But unfortunately, during the death moment, his mind has changed, converted, and he was with a entirely wrong view. It has caused him a bad destination. And on the other hand, even though currently he's doing something good, closer to his death, as he is aging, he could change to the opposite. So he was starting doing something wrong, something bad. And as a result of that, he might get a bad destination. And on the other hand, Kamma also can have an impact. There could be some strong past unwholesome Kamma. So they give unfavorable results at the death. So as a result of that, they are getting a bad destination, even though currently they are doing something good. So you can see a little complex theory here. So it is not that linear type of theory that we have to merely depend on. So linear theory is also there, but overlapping with that, there are many other conditions possible. And again, we can see the lifestyles of the people are quite complex and they are continuing to do wholesome deeds as well as the unwholesome deeds. So which one is more powerful? It's quite difficult for us to determine. It's a kind of a difficult subject, a vast area that we have to analyze in order to come to a conclusion. So therefore, in this Mahakamma Vibhanga Sutta, the Buddha mentioned these kind of possibilities are still possible, still available. And another interesting area is this Lonapala Sutta, where a very, very interesting phenomena Buddha highlights here. So basically, we can change our karma. It is not that we are very much like passive, destined people who are going through the past fate. So if we think that we are going through our everything because of the past karma and it is on entirely because of our destiny, because of our fate, so then it is a very passive type of thinking, a wrong view. But instead, Buddha mentioned one can change one's entire life by accumulating or by continuing to do wholesome deeds. Now, on the other hand, he gives another part here in this Lonapala Sutta, that is the same activity. If someone does, it can give bad results. Assume that it's a unwholesome activity. If someone does that, it can cause a really bad consequences. But the same bad activity, some another person perform it, might not give us such a bad consequences. Now, the interesting simile Buddha gives here is a drop of a salt crystal. Assume that we have a little amount of water. So we are taking this little water to a cup and we are putting that small, say that particular amount of salt into it. And what happens to the water is that it gets salty because the amount of water available is quite limited. But on the other hand, suppose that you are using the same amount of salt and you are putting it to the Ganges, so you are putting it to a large reservoir, you are putting it to a large river. So we all can understand, so that river may not get salty because the amount of water available is so vast. Large amount of water is available, so that little salt is not enough to convert that water into salty. So likewise, Buddha mentioned, if someone is having a vast amount of wholesome power, he has done many good things. Particularly, he has involved his fair amount of spiritual development. He has developed his capacities. He has developed his spiritual faculties. So likewise, he has a tremendous amount of virtue accumulated. He is currently also doing something something wholesome. So his wholesome power is so vast. But there could be a reason, there could be a situation due to a mistake or due to a bad habit. He's doing something wrong and something unwholesome, but the impact of that unwholesome deed is very limited because his vast wholesome power is so overwhelming, so powerful. So as a result of that, limited unwholesome deed is very much become nullified. So it's a trifling evil deed that he has done, and that is also giving a very limited results, very limited consequences. There we can see if we are capable of fulfilling many wholesome deeds, if we are capable of enhancing our wholesome power, so that is actually acting like a refuge. So we can fairly depend on that. And that does not merely mean that we are doing only the wholesome external activities, but rather we have to fairly purify ourselves. So this has to come a long way, in a way, to fulfill our mind or to enhance our virtuous capacity. And basically, we have to enhance our wholesome power. So that's something that we have to purposely start, so that even some past unwholesome impact is there that can become depleted, that can become slowly fade away. And if there are even unwholesome deeds, what we have done, even right now, that also might give very less impact because our vast wholesome power is so tremendous. So that is something that we need to understand. So Buddha highlights this point in this Lonapala Sutta. So therefore, it is quite difficult immediately for us to come to a conclusion that the same activity will give the same result to everybody. We can't say like that. The same unwholesome deed, but giving a different result or different impact onto different individuals because of their wholesome power available. And the other side is also could be possible where if someone is doing something bad or something wholesome, so if his unwholesome power is so powerful, it might not even give much results because he has a tremendous amount of unwholesome power. So that is something that we need to consider. Therefore, we have to be careful in one sense, to be mindful not to do any unwholesome deeds. On the other hand, we have to be vigilant in how to develop our wholesome power. How are we purifying ourselves? How are we getting into more, say, advanced kind of wholesome power rather than merely involved with the rituals? Because sometimes people think, okay, wholesome deeds are mere rituals and, participating into activities and something like that. But here we are talking something more. That is where we are talking about the meditation, the mindfulness practice and satipatthana and all that meditation related activities. They are giving a tremendous amount of power. And we can come to that a little while. And that's another interesting part where Buddha mentioned that it is not the activity that we are continuously doing that actually gives us a consequence. Now, this is actually an argument Buddha make to a follower of the Nigandanatha Putta, where they say, if you do something bad, definitely you are destined to hell. If you do something good, you are destined to the heavenly realm. So that's a very, the linear way of defining it. But the complexity there is Buddha highlighted even in the Sankadhamma Sutta, where Buddha mentioned that basically Buddha is not telling that if you kill, you are destined to hell. If you steal, you are destined to hell. Buddha does not mention something like that. Rather, his theory or his way of discussion onto this Kamma, his way of, the teaching about the Kamma is little flexible. He too actually remind the people, okay, don't do something wrong, don't do something bad, don't kill, don't steal, don't involve in sexual misconduct, don't lie, don't use intoxicants. So likewise, he criticized that activity. He mentioned, and these bad consequences are there, these unwholesome activities are there. So he give a thorough understanding to us. Basically, he gives us a proper understanding so that we as Buddhists, or we as his followers, basically can get a fair influence on that. And on the other hand, we can also understand, so probably I also have done something wrong in the past. Say, for example, you have involved in a killing. Assume that you had to participate in an activity, or you were involved in a particular profession which involves certain amount of impact on the living beings. Say you are in a fisheries company. So there could be a situation that you are involved with the some amount of influence towards the fish, maybe certain other beings. So later, assume that you want to change yourself. And you don't need to regret about what you have done, but you need to admit what you have done. So regretting and admitting is two different things. So we need to understand, okay, I have done something wrong. I was involved with something wrong. So Buddha has mentioned it is something wrong. Say, for example, say killing is something wrong and I was involved with that, but now I understand its impact. Now I understand it is so unwholesome. So that kind of honest admission, that kind of honest, humble coming to understanding is quite necessary. But the important thing is we are not asked to regret about it. That is what Buddha highlights here. So we are not supposed to again and again repeatedly think of what we have done. So we have done something wrong, true. But we need to understand that is something true, and now a kind of a process has to be initiated to overcome the impact. But we are not supposed to think again and again about that bad activity and regret about it. So it's a very, very powerful theory. Here Buddha talks in this Sankhadhamma Sutta. So there Buddha mentioned, so reflecting thus, he abandons right then the taking of life, and in the future refrains from taking life. Now he take a decision. Now I am taking here, just as an example, taking of life. So someone was killing. But he understood. Buddha also has mentioned it is so unwholesome. Don't do it. So he listened to the Buddha. He read the Buddha's teaching. Now he want to change himself. Now he come to a conclusion. Now he determines, yeah, I am not going to do it again. Now he refrains from taking life. Now he doesn't continue in that wrong activity. So basically, now he come to the correct path. Now he determines, okay, I have to refrain from killing. But on the other hand, he is not worried about what he has done. This is how there comes to be the abandoning of that evil deed. This is how there comes to be the transcending of that evil deed. Now he has done that taking of life, but now he is transcending that. Now he is penetrating that. Rather than regretting about it, now he's changing his life. He's no more going to kill. Now, very interesting simile. Here also Buddha mentioned, not only that, now he is using his wholesome power to reduce all that unwholesome killing what he was involved in. Just as a strong conch trumpet blower can notify the 4 directions without any difficulty. In the same way, when the awareness release through metta is thus developed, thus pursued, any deed done to a limited extent no longer remains there, no longer stays there. It's very much like he's deleting, he's erasing all his bad Kamma, because now he is developing so powerful, wholesome side. He's developing metta, not limited to a particular person, but to the whole universe. He's developing metta. He's releasing metta. He's releasing loving kindness to the whole universe, which is so powerful. Now, I was just taking this example, the killing. Now, suppose someone was cheating, someone was, stealing, and someone was not that truthful. You can change. So that's the beauty of the Dhamma, and that is the growth of Dhamma. So it is not that we are born saints. We all may have various drawbacks. We all have done mistakes. But the important thing is not to regret about them, but to correct them, not to do those mistakes again. So that is where we are developing. That is how we are abandoning all the wrong deeds. So if you are involved in sexual misconduct, so if you understand that, and you understand that how Buddha criticized that, and what would be the impact if you continue, so you come to a kind of a conclusion, okay, I'm not going to do it again. I'm trying to be sincere. I'm trying to be sort of virtuous. So you determine, you come to a conclusion, you come to a decision. So you abandon sexual misconduct. So after abandoning that, don't regret about what you have done. So that is already gone. It is the past. But now you are developing a certain amount of wholesome power. It could be the Brahma Viharas. It could be Vipassana. So basically the meditation related Brahma Vihara, Metta, Mudita, Karuna, Upekha, or Vipassana related thorough understanding about the teaching. So all these are so powerful. And the more you mature in that, all that past deeds become fairly nullified, fairly kind of depleted, fairly weakened, because you are developing so powerful. As Buddha mentioned as an example, that that trumpet, that sound of the trumpet can be overwhelming. That sound of the trumpet can be sort of spread vast over the environment, to the whole surrounding. Everybody can hear it. So likewise, Buddha mentioned here, so how one can abandon what they have done, the unwholesome deeds. And it is not that we are determined or we are very much destined to go to hell, even though we do something wrong. We still have a capacity, we still have the possibility to change ourselves, to correct what we have done something wrong. So that is the importance of understanding this Kamma, the theory of the Kamma, that we can abandon all wrong views, because sometimes people are carrying so many wrong views. So they think sometimes they are destined to the hell, they are destined to bad destinations, I have no escape, I have done something wrong. So again and again they are thinking about that. Again and again they are weeping, crying, getting worried. So that is not the way. Rather, there's an opportunity available. There's a possibility available that if we carefully understand, okay, what I have done something is really wrong. Buddha also criticized that. Let me change myself. Let me admit what I have done is wrong, but I'm not going to do it again. Now, that is the honest reflection that one has to do. That's the honest determination one has to do. Now he is continuing to develop the wholesome side. He stops doing unwholesome, and basically he continues to do wholesome deeds. And another area, now we can actually come to the last slide. So that is where Buddha mentioned the different types of Kamma. So different types of Kamma is also interesting to understand. So there are Kamma which are bad basically, which give unwholesome results, unfavorable results. A bad destination is possible. Kamma that is dark with dark result. Kanhang kanha vipaka. So they are bad, they are unwholesome, and again will give unwholesome results. So they are obvious now, say for example, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and all these list of different unwholesome activities, they are Buddha particularly mentioned. So they are bad, they are sort of unethical and will give bad destination and will give bad results. On the other hand, there are kamma that is bright with bright result. Sukham, sukha vipakam. So they are good deeds and also they will give good results. Say you are practicing meditation, you are practicing mindfulness, you are practicing metta, you are practicing mudita, altruistic joy, you are practicing karuna, the compassion. Now these are really wholesome deeds, wholesome activities, and they give good results. And say you are helping another person. It's a good deed and can give good results. So these are obvious things. So we can say there are wholesome deeds which are giving or providing good results, and there are unwholesome deeds which are resulting in unwholesome, unfavorable results. So those are obvious. An interesting thing is kamma that is dark and bright with dark and bright results. There are certain things, sometimes we do a mixture. We do something good and we do something bad as well. Now, say, for example, say you want to help someone. And in order to help that, you need to, say, punish another person. So you are interacting, you are sort of interfering the situation and you are punishing another person, you are, say, stabbing another person, and you are trying to help another person. So the mixture is there. So in one sense, you have certain amount of sympathy towards someone. On the other hand, you are having certain amount of hate towards another one. So sometimes we are experiencing this kind of a mixture of things. It is not entirely wholesome and it is not entirely unwholesome. Kind of mixture of wholesome and unwholesome deeds are there. So as a result of that, we also might get the wholesome and unwholesome results or favorable or unfavorable results. So basically we can see if we completely continue to do many unwholesome deeds, so many unwholesome, unfavorable, bad results are possible, like you having a, say, birth in the hell realm, in a bad destination. On the other hand, assume that you are doing many wholesome deeds, you are involved with something good as much as possible. So you are born in the heavenly realm, so you are getting more and more blissful results. That is also possible. On the other hand, assume that we are involved with the wholesome and unwholesome, kind of a mixture of both, then we might get a life which is having mixture of both. So we have some favorable results sometimes, and we sometimes go through unfavorable results, like the human realm. So the human realm is basically with both sides. So we sometimes have some favorable, say, wholesome, blissful results. And on the other hand, sometimes we go through some unfavorable, bad, or painful results. So human realm is something like that. So all these three actually we can understand. But the interesting part is the last one, where Buddha mentioned, but there's a kamma that is neither dark nor bright, with neither dark nor bright result, leading to the ending of the kamma. Now this is where the extinction of the kamma is possible. It is not that we become completely passive, helpless victims in this realm of kamma, but Buddha has given a kind of a path, how one can cease kamma, how one can free from kamma. So that is the path, the Noble Eightfold Path, where we can say, what is the kamma that is neither dark nor bright, with neither dark nor bright result, leading to the ending of the kamma. Right view, right resolve, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. Noble Eightfold Path. So you can see if one is practicing Noble Eightfold Path, so it is actually transcending kamma. At the beginning, fairly, actually, we establish on the favorable side. So we admit, okay, these are the good activities, these are the kusala kamma, these are the akusala kamma. wholesome and unwholesome, we properly understand. And as much as possible, we establish ourselves in the wholesome side. That is a must, that is necessary. But later on, as we continue to thorough vipassana, to some higher degree of vipassana, one may understand, okay, no point of making an I, no point of making a self, because everything is very much like a flux. Everything is impermanent. Everything is unsatisfactory. And there is no essence, there is no core, there is no soul, there is no self. So that coming as a thorough understanding in oneself. So that is actually the situation where now he is minimizing intentional activities. Because he understands, okay, these are not necessary to do, not necessary to intervene unless it comes to me. I don't need to interrupt. I don't need to come forward immediately just because of my own will. Rather, I better calm down. I better relax. And I better minimize intentional activities. So intentional participating, basically making a self, making an strong individual, and with that individual feeling, a feeling that I am so and so, I am doing this, I am doing a bad activity, I am doing a good activity. So that self-referential thoughts, so I-based thinking, I-centered thinking, now he is trying to minimize. Because he understands, okay, it's no point. He has penetrated the truth, he has understood the truth. By cultivating the Noble Eightfold Path, now he is developing further about the Panya Sikha, the wisdom training. As much as possible, he is now disclaiming I-making. He is disclaiming the self-view. He is abandoning the self-view. It's no more refreshing about what he has done either. Now, the typical previous understanding was, say, I have done something good, let me refresh about it, let me review it, let me recollect it. As much as possible, now you are recollecting, and as a result of that, the wholesome power is also improving. That is one side. But when one gets into the Noble Eightfold Path, the correct practice, now we are trying to penetrate not only the wholesome, not only the unwholesome, but even the wholesome. It is not that we are trying to do something more and more wholesome so that we get more and more wholesome results, favorable results. Rather, we are trying to cut through the samsara. One is trying to abandon all the self-view, all I-centered thinking, which is basically based upon some false understanding. It's a kind of falsified view that we were carrying throughout this samsara, that I am an individual, I am a person, I am a being, I am so and so. I need to do this. I am the one who did that. I am the one going to do that. So likewise, a self-making, self-preferential, I-making identification is something that we were carrying on. So that's why we are going through in this round of samsara. Now, when one is continuing the Noble Eightfold Path, the development of the Noble Eightfold Path, but slowly, one abandoned that wrong view. One abandoned that wrong way of thinking. And now he is minimizing that self-reference. Now he is minimizing that individuation. Now he's minimizing that personalization to any of the activities. He's basically now disclaiming. Whenever some activity is done and a certain thoughts are happening, rather than sort of delighting on that, basically he is abandoning that. He understands no point of making a self out of this particular deed. No point of making a person out of this particular deed. So due to certain conditions and causes have happened, so the task is done, that's it. No point of think about it. Let it go. Keep the mind unattached. Keep the mind uninvolved. Keep the mind unentangled. Keep the mind released. Keep the mind freed. So that is where now he's abandoning all the past karma. is no more accumulating new karma. Hinang Puranam Navan Natti Sambhala. Viratta Chitta Ayatike Bhavasmi. So you can understand, you can remember the last verse in the Atana Sutta. Hinam Puranam. So all the past karma now is slowly ceasing. He's basically disclaiming. When the impact is coming, he's actually because of the wholesome power he has developed. So the impact of the bad karma is also becomes fairly weakened. He's no more want to enjoy future births. Navan Natti Sambhalang. So he's no more willfully, intentionally, say, making a self, making a strong individual. He's doing something. He may be continuing to do something good, but not with the self-view, not with the kind of a self-refreshment, not with the kind of individuation. But he's continuing to do something good. Now you can understand, say, the Arahants, the Buddha. So Buddha lived 45 years after his full enlightenment. He continued to do something good. But all the activities he has done become null and void because there is no person, there is no being, there is no self. So this is a very interesting area to investigate, area to research, area to ponder in a way. So how one is continuing to do something good without making a self, without making an individual, and without accumulating karma. Hinam Puranam Navannati Sambhavam Viratta Chitta Ayatike Bhavasmi. Now he is continuing his life with a undefiled mind. He's keeping the mind unentangled, keeping the mind uninvolved, keeping the mind unattached. Now this is something that we need to understand. So as Buddhists or as practitioners, so we have to come to this stage. It is not that we all continue to wander in the samsara. Rather, Buddha has given a clear direction. Okay, this is an unnecessary participation into this whole samsara. We are making a self where there is no self. We are thinking that things are impermanent. Sorry, thinking things are permanent when things are impermanent. And we are trying to get satisfaction where things are not satisfied, unsatisfiable, or where there is suffering. The complete wrong understanding we are continuing. So when one is developing Noble Eightfold Path, so one is coming to more and more understanding about this. So now he is disclaiming all the activities. He's disclaiming I-making or mind-making. He's disclaiming the conceit. So the mind become more and more purified, more and more neutral, and he's not enjoying any I-making or mind-making. So as a result of that, the past karma is abandoned, new karma is not generated. He's continuing to do something good, but not with a personal view. So this is an interesting area to stop. And with that, I like to conclude today's Dhamma sermon. Now we can get into the practice session. Okay, we'll spend a few minutes in mindful sitting. May you sit in a comfortable position. You can adjust your posture. You can relax yourself. Now we can gently close our eyes. Now we can hear various sounds. Actually, I can hear the sound of the rain. So I can be present using that sound even. Currently it is raining. So I can hear that. And no need to be worried about it. It is happening. I can simply hear it. It is raining. I can be fully conscious about it. I don't need to think about the past. I don't need to plan. I don't need to think about the future. But I can simply listen, mindfully listen. So probably you also can hear various sounds. Maybe a sound of a vehicle, sound of a fan, a refrigerator, or maybe sounds of the animals, whatever the sounds. So they are merely sounds. They simply happen. They simply come and go. They appear and disappear. So we are mindfully listening. Simply be aware what's happening. Basically, we are right now in the mindful sitting. So you can recognize the sitting posture, not standing, not lying down, not walking, but sitting. How I feel in this sitting posture. Settling to ourselves, recognizing this sitting posture, establishing mindfulness. I'm just sitting. It's a very ordinary experience. Coming back to ourselves, establishing mindfulness. Just be, just recognize. Just be aware of the sitting posture. Very relaxed. Nothing to do. Just be. Just relax. See whether you can understand or you can recognize through the body these subtle sensations. Eyes are gently closed. There could be a subtle sensation at your eyelids. Lips are gently touching. There could be a soft sensation there as well. And overall, there can't be any tension in your face. If there are any tense muscles, just release them. Have a subtle smile, a little smile. And don't think about the past. Don't think about any problems. Right now, don't do any planning. Just relax. Just come to the present moment. Just try to enjoy the present moment. So simple. The present moment experience is so simple, quite ordinary. And now we are opening up ourselves to that ordinary, simple present moment experience. It's available right here, right now. So being aware what's going on. Kind of simple awareness, a little curiosity to know the present moment, what's going on. Full awareness with little curiosity, a little bit of investigation. I am sitting, coming back to the present moment. As we further move down in our body, there could be various sensations. Our shoulders relax, hands resting on our lap. There is no tension in the hands. There are bodily feelings. Clothes are touching the body. There may be little tightness. There may be some rubbing or touching sensations. Various clothes are touching the body. Here and there, various sensations throughout the body. Recognize them. They are mere sensations. Now take a deep breath, hold it for a while, slowly release. Again, take a deep breath, hold it for a while, slowly release. Come back to yourself. Be with yourself. Again, take a deep breath, hold it for a while, slowly release. Now, as we further move inside the body, there's a possibility that we are recognizing rising and falling of the abdomen, or the heart vibration, or various other little pains, sensations. Now, all these are indications that our attention is fairly now associated in the body. We are not distracted. We are within ourselves. We are living with ourselves. We have become introvert. We are understanding the position of the body, the orientation of the body. And also we are understanding some internal sensations of the body, characteristics of the body. More and more well connected with the body. I am with myself. Legs are bent and legs muscles are relaxed. Overall, I am in a relaxed posture. Overall, there is no tension, no stress, well grounded in the present moment. Again, take a deep breath, hold it for a while, slowly release. Now we are trying to keep our attention at the nostril. Allow breathing to happen naturally and recognize in-breath, recognize out-breath. Allow the body to breathe. Don't control. Just relax. And recognize in-breath, recognize out-breath. And if you want, you can note it as in when you are experiencing the in-breath, and you can note it as out when you are experiencing out-breath. You are simply knowing it. You are simply being aware of it. The body knows how to breathe. I don't need to worry. I don't need to interfere. I don't need to control. So we allow the body to naturally breathe. So I am simply being aware of that breathing. If any distraction happen, don't worry about it. Don't blame yourself. Carefully come back to yourself. Come back to the breath. If there are any thoughts related to the past, don't encourage it. Again, establish mindfulness on the breath. If there are thoughts related to the future, don't encourage them. Slowly come back to the present moment, to the breath. Forgive yourself. No need to rush. Take your time. Relax yourself and connect to yourself. Ground yourself. Okay, I think we can come to the closing part. Now, if you have any question related to the Dhamma sermon, or if you have any question related to your meditation, we can discuss a little about that now.
Bhante, there is like a question in the chat. Most Venerable Bhante, into which part of the Eightfold Path does dana comes in? Please explain.
Yeah, actually, that is, we can say, as related to the Sammaditthi also, because in the Sammaditthi there are two aspects Buddha mentioned, the mundane aspect of the Sammaditthi, Laukiya Sammaditthi, as well as the Lokottara Sammaditthi, the supramundane aspect of Sammaditthi. In the mundane Sammaditthi, so there we are establishing ourselves on the wholesome side of the Kamma. So that is where dana comes to the picture. So we understand, okay, if something is giving, if something is given, so it has a good result. And if something we do correct or wholesome, then it will have the wholesome result. So that is why it is called Kammassa Kata Sammaditthi, where we are understanding in principle what is the Kamma and how we are being affected by that, how we are in a way inheriting the Kamma. And that is why we have to do good Kamma, abandon unwholesome Kamma. So very much like we are becoming a good person. But still certain amount of ignorance is there because I am an individual. I am so and so. I am a good person. That I-based thinking or I-centered thinking is still there. But necessary to establish this level without being an unwholesome or unethical ground, now we have to come to an ethical ground. We have to come to a virtuous ground, a restrained ground. So that is where the dana and various other good activities are involved with, where Kammassa Kata Sammaditthi basically help us to become a good person. But we don't need to stagnate there, by the way. Now we need to continue being a good person. So what else I need to do? So how I can calm down the mind, relax the mind, concentrate the mind, so purify the mind. So likewise, now there are further possibilities are there, further growth is there. Now one is further exploring those possibilities. So that is how one is starting purposely developing, say, faith, purposely developing, say, mindfulness, purposely developing concentration, purposely developing wisdom. So likewise, certain wholesome characteristics or wholesome qualities are there to be developed. So now you are continuing that path. So that whole development, the purposeful, effortful development of all those spiritual qualities, now it is going towards the supramundane side of the Sammaditthi.
Thank you, Bhante. Yeah, Joseph, yeah, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you. Hello, Bhante.
Hi, how are you?
Can you hear me? Hello, Bhante.
Yes.
Hi. Yeah, I found that very interesting, the mentioning of the final moment of death, how the Kamma or the destination was sort of dependent or could be changed at that last moment, depending on the thought. Did I understand that properly? How
Correct.
one could. So I found that very interesting, because I from my kind of understanding in the dying process, when one is really at the final moment, the types of thoughts that are coming, one no longer really has control over that, because the body is, one doesn't really have control over the body, and the mind is sort of, it's just the unwinding into the final moments. So I just found that really interesting, how we really don't know then, up until the very last moment, how we're going to be in that, and that, and I just found that really interesting. And if you had any other thoughts or comments on that idea, thank you.
So basically, that is particularly addressing to a person who is doing the typical wholesome deeds and typical unwholesome deeds, where it is not that he is purposefully developing certain amount of mental capacities by the way. So that is actually being discussed in the Sankadhamma Sutta, where you are purposely developing those spiritual qualities. But in the Mahakamma Vibhanga Sutta, what is highlighted is where the restrainment of the bad deeds and involvement of the bad deeds. So one is involving with the bad deeds, but still one can have a say wholesome destination because of the impact of the the death moment, where he come to a proper understanding, or where he is sort of influenced by another person, where he is influenced by say kind of a right view somehow. So likewise, a kind of a decisive moment, as you said, is the death moment. But on the other hand, assume that someone has developed certain mental capacity. He's trying to keep the mind uninvolved. He's trying to keep the mind unattached. So this is a very advanced state in a way. So that's what the Buddha's in a way some strong advice to the monks. And if you can remember, there's a sutta called Channovada Sutta. The Channovada Sutta, now Venerable Channa is dying. So at that moment, Venerable Sariputta and Venerable Mahachunda arriving him and visiting him, and the final very much the advice is this: so keep the mind unattached, keep the mind completely unassociated, keep the mind uninvolved, keep the mind unentangled, don't grasp to anything. Anisitocha viharati nachakinchi loke upadhyati. Now basically the result of the Satipatthana, the culmination of the Satipatthana, where one is now trying to keep the mind uninvolved, unattached. So that is the sort of result, that is the sort of state of the mind that is encouraged to maintain at the death moment. And even to the dying, say, Anathapindika, Venerable Sariputta approached Venerable Anath. So this Anathapindika, the householder Anathapindika at his death moment. Now, Anathapindika is telling, I am going through a tremendous amount of suffering and it's a huge pain I am going through. So likewise, he is explaining the suffering he is going through, the death-related suffering. But the advice to Anathapindika by Venerable Sariputta is the same thing. Don't attach to any sense impingement. Don't attach to sights. Don't attach to sounds, smells, taste, touch, thoughts. Try to keep your mind uninvolved. Try to keep the mind unattached. Try to keep the mind unassociated, not grasping. The same thing. So that is actually only possible to a person who has touched that state. At least temporary, that if you have tasted that freedom, not the you have become fully enlightened, but rather during your meditation, during your vipassana practice, during your satipatthana practice, if one has experienced that released moment, if one has experienced that released state of mind, so that is what is encouraged to maintain during the death moment. So that is a little bit, going beyond that typical death moment related advice. Now here, this is a very distinct death moment related advice given to the practitioners. And if we are able to do that, then basically, if we are completely, 100% successful in that, one can become fully liberated, one can become an arahant. And on the other hand, if one is unable to do that, still then the whole next birth is depending on the asava and anusaya and the wholesome power. The wholesome power basically determines what would be your destination. The wholesome power is there. So wholesome power very much appear like a kind of a refuge. Now you are in that level kind of going through a kind of normal transformation, and as a result of that, that momentum will take one to a kind of a wholesome or favorable birth. And that is what happened to the Venerable, to this Anathapindika. So he was a stream winner. So he may have tried to maintain that, but he didn't become an Arahant. Rather, he was born as a celestial being. Likewise, some interesting possibilities are there. So we don't need to sort of think that we don't have entirely, how to say, no command at all. On the other hand, if the mind is trained, so the mind has to be trained how to maintain it uninvolved, how to maintain it unattached, how to maintain it undistracted or well-grounded. So that is something that we need to train the mind. So that training has to be continued. That training has to be, again and again cultivated. So then there's a possibility that mind is following that training. Mind is very much adhering to that training, is continuing that training. So that mind is involving in the sense being in that freed way or unattached way, unentangled way as much as possible. So likewise, there are certain possibilities are available, especially for the practitioners. So if the mind training is done really well, so there are a lot of opportunities available.
Thank you. I mean, that makes sense, that if one had been training, that when the moment comes, the training would take over. I think that, I mean, in any other field, we would say the same thing. If you have the equivalent, say the muscle memory of doing a certain activity, once you're really in the heat of the moment, the muscle memory kicks in, and you don't really have to think about it. You just you do it.
Yeah, the same answer actually given to the King Mahanama. So King Mahanama is also asking very much the same question. So I am involved with so many say other activities, external activities. I have so many responsibilities. So my death can happen even while I am involved with so many responsibilities. So likewise, he was in a little bit of a perplexity about his death. So what's going to happen after death? But when this Mahanama is a noble person, he has gone through a certain amount of practice, and he has experienced this temporary release, temporary liberation, temporary freedom. And now he is talking to Buddha. Now Buddha's advice to Mahanama is very much similar, where he say, now you have developed certain amount of wholesomeness within you. You have experienced this, what you call the freedom. So as a result of that, during the death moment, don't worry. Even though your body collapses, even though your body comes to connects with the ground, your mind get released, because mind has associated something wholesome. Mind has associated something noble. So he is giving a very beautiful simile, and Buddha say, assume that you have a pot filled with ghee in it, and now this pot taken underneath the water, immersed in the water, and assume that someone is breaking the pot. And now Buddha is asking, what happened to the ghee? So Mahanama says, okay, the ghee may come to the surface, but the pieces of the pot may drop down. Similarly, Buddha mentioned, so if during the passing away for the noble disciple, the body may collapse, the body may come to the ground, but the mind may go to something noble. So that is very interesting simile that Buddha is giving. So, but you can understand, for that actually we have to have an amount of training.
That I understand. For the other aspect, for the one, I mean, I'm kind of thinking in my own situation, just on a personal level. So my father, who I have a bit of a difficult relationship with, and I know that he's really suffering. He's somebody who really suffers and has a lot of anger, and he's getting old, and I kind of worry that on the deathbed, if he hasn't really worked through all these things, which he just kind of part of a generation who kind of refuses to really look at themselves in a way, or really kind of deal with things that have been troubling them their whole lives. They kind of just think it's too late, or they're too old, and would just rather cut off people who trigger feelings of anger within themselves. But my kind of concern or worry for him is that when the deathbed comes, all of that is just going to bubble up, and he'll have a horrible kind of death, and I worry about that. And and then part of the things he says is, I don't want you to come to my deathbed, because I think he worries that when I'm there, I kind of trigger in him all the things, the anger, whatever, which he can sort of pretend isn't there when I'm not around. And so I wonder, because that's something that I wonder about, is when the time comes, if there's anything I could do, if it sounds like there's this possibility that's being suggested here, that it could even be possible, even in that last moment, to have some kind of a release, like the possibility of some kind of letting go of the anger and the hatred, and this mostly self-hatred, I would say. And if there's anything I could do to facilitate that, or I guess, because I grapple with this idea of what should I do, when he's on the deathbed. Should I listen to what he said and not go there, to not anger him, or should I go, knowing that what he said in anger was just not really what he meant? I don't know if you see what I mean. It's a little kind of, I was just thinking about that because of the talk today, and when you mentioned that.
I think, Joseph, this self-hatred is something that we are not forgiving ourselves. So I probably have done a lot of mistakes. I have done something wrong, and I feel like I am useless. I am a bad person. So that is something that we need to understand. So there, if I can acknowledge that. If I can forgive myself, I can admit that, okay, there is something wrong I have done, but let me correct myself. I don't need to, walk through that. I don't need to really carry on that. I can simply abandon that. It is not, I need to continuously think what I have done. Sometimes people go through, they are carry on their mistake. They have done maybe once or twice the mistake, but they are regretting about it. They are worrying about it again and again, like they are doing it every moment. It is not. They have done that something wrong maybe a couple of times, but that's all. That there are maybe various other good deeds they have done, but they are not talking about it. They are not remembering even that, but they are hating themselves for that limited bad deeds what they have done. So we need to understand this. This is a kind of an unfavorable pattern in our mind, in the human nature is there, in the psychology is there, where we are worrying what we have done something wrong, forgetting about all the wholesome deeds what we have done. So we are very much like neglecting all the wholesome good deeds we did, but we are so worried about a little wrong thing what we have done. So if we can learn how to change ourselves, say I have done something good, many good things are there. True, I have done something wrong also. So let me correct myself by not thinking about that wrong thing, not regretting about that wrong thing, but rather not doing that wrong thing again. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to repeat that wrong thing again. Rather, I am developing further that expanded mind, that release mind, or the compassionate mind, the loving kindness mind, so that my wholesome power is improving. So I feel, Joseph, if possible, I am suggesting, if possible, without waiting till the death moment comes, if you can, participate and inform him. You have done something good also. So don't worry about what you have done as something bad. So don't encourage any kind of self-hatred. So likewise, if you are able to slowly, change him before his death, and his mentality before his death, I feel that would be more beneficial than interrupting or, quickly trying to do something during the death moment.
Yeah, absolutely, Bhante. That makes sense. I think for my part, that is also on me for the forgiveness to be forgiving and to let go, I suppose, myself, and to not be triggered or get angry or say, I guess I find it in myself also difficult because there is, like you say, no regretting, but there has to be the admission also of wrongdoing, doesn't there? Isn't the admission of something was done that was wrong? That admission, I think, is a kind of a necessary part, at least in a relationship, of kind of healing and moving forward. Because he might have the regret, but if he doesn't admit in a wrongdoing, then in a way I find it difficult to move forward, or with the forgiveness, because I feel that without that admission, I feel somehow that I'm condoning it, or I'm somehow not calling it.
Correct.
You see what I mean? So I think it's on me. Yeah, it's on me, but it's also, I mean, it's a two-way thing. I do my best to be open and forgiving, and then I find myself sort of getting triggered when I see there's no admission of wrongdoing, or as if nothing bad happened, and that I find it I don't really know what to do, and I find it better to just walk away. So
admitting is quite necessary. So that's how an opportunity is possible. Once we admit the fault as fault, a mistake as mistake, a shortcoming as a shortcoming, okay, I admit that. So this a kind of makes us humble and make us sort of innocent. At the same time, it is not my responsibility to, regretting about it. Now let me correct it. Avoid repeating it. So basically that is why Buddha encouraged, okay, his teaching is quite open. Okay, even for Angulimala, his teaching is available. Even for someone has done something, still the thing is available, provided he, as you said, he admit the fault, as well as he make a kind of an effort, a determination to avoid repeating that whatever the unwholesome deed.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you for listening and for your advice. Everyone, Saranai.
Everyone, Saranai.
Geeta, please unmute yourself and present your question.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Bhante. I have a question unrelated to today's topic. It's about metta in my practice.
Right.
So it's taken me a long time to take metta meditation seriously, because I always felt it was a bit wishy-washy or something. But now I find that I do need to practice. And so when I was listening to instructions about using the method of first directing metta thoughts towards oneself and then, going outwards from there, that made sense. And although the words are a little bit sound empty without the real feeling, it's still, I find, if I keep at it, a feeling or thoughts of metta start to come up in other situations. But I have a problem with the explanation that when we say I use a friend or some other group of people as the object of developing that metta, people talk about it as if I'm radiating metta to others. Whereas I feel that when I look into this practice, I feel that all I'm doing is generating metta and getting rid of some dosa in my own mind. And this is a purification practice. This is not about projecting metta outwards. This is about cleaning up what's here.
Mhm.
Am I wrong, Bhante? Because this projection thing, it sort of disturbs me a bit. I think I'm not projecting anywhere. I'm just cleaning up the mess in here. And I need to. But projection, maybe that happens when somebody is really highly developed or something. But for most of us, this is about dealing with a hindrance that's very common, and that the tranquility sort of becomes easier.
Yeah, anyway, we are starting with our own little ways. So
Yeah.
I am not yet a saint who can radiate metta towards the other universe, to the whole world. True,
Yes.
that's all right. But still, as you said, so by doing your own little way, so you are purifying yourself. So as we
Yes.
even today ask the Sankadhamma Sutta, so we are now playing our trumpet to our limited little sense. True, the others can't hear it, but we are healing ourselves. We are healing ourselves. But the method of doing is the same thing. The spreading method is there. It's very much like you start, as you correctly mentioned, we need to feel metta first of all to ourselves. Kind of, forgiving ourselves, admitting our faults, and let me correct myself. Let me have a wholesome side, or kind of a healthy body, healthy mind, freedom from suffering. So likewise, you have a kind of a self-compassion, kind of loving thoughts towards yourself. Now you start feeling how metta feels like. And now to the same amount, assume now even more than that, sometimes people, more than themselves, they have certain metta or loving kindness towards another person. Say you are a good friend. So you always wish something good for him, good for her. And likewise, you recognize that person is an easily lovable person. And you use that person to, to generate metta and to taste that metta, to learn what is metta means. Because you always wish something good for her, and always wish something, progressive for her, kind of wholesome for her, and growth for her. So, and now you develop metta towards her. Now, as a result of that development, now you start feeling, okay, this is what is metta. This is how it feels like. This is the state of mind when it is filled with metta. So let me have the same amount of metta towards myself even. Now you can, balance the same amount of metta even to yourself. Let me have metta towards another person, not to that particular person, even to another person, to the same amount. Because you have experienced that amount, you have experienced that quality. Now you are sort of expanding that particular metta to another person. So likewise, now slowly we are broadening our scape or landscape. And now you can even spread metta to many people, not just to your friend, not just to yourself, and even to all the people available in front of you. You can say spread metta. All the living beings in front of you, you can develop metta. All the living beings onto your right direction, you can develop metta or spread metta. All the living beings behind your direction, you can say spread metta. All the beings onto your left direction, you can spread metta. All the beings on top of you, on the higher direction, you can spread metta. On the underneath direction, you can spread metta. Now, actually, you are spreading metta to the whole universe. You are very much like a source of metta. Like a light bulb spreading the illumination light throughout all the directions. So to our limited level, say we are spreading metta. We can't be yet like the moon or like the sun spreading metta to a mass scale, but we can at least be a light bulb. We are to our limited scale. I'm spreading metta to everyone. So slowly, likewise, I am healing myself. Now there are no more hateful thoughts or self-hate involved. Rather, now I am forgiving myself. I am spreading metta to everyone, so the others also may feel it. So likewise, we are slowly growing ourselves. But on the other hand, to add a little bit, probably you can develop mindfulness practice as well. So don't limit yourself only to the metta practice, but develop a certain amount of, the walking meditation and how you are present and that activity, how you are grounding yourself, how you are developing each and every step, being mindful. So not only metta, now couple that with satipatthana practice as well, then you may, develop another landscape.
Yes, using the wide field, it's as if you're challenging your capacity for metta by, as you go further out, if you can maintain,
so that
you're challenging that capacity.
Typically, our minds are very narrow and very limited capacity. I can love only to my child. I can love only to my friend, but not to the others. So likewise, we have, certain distinctions, certain frames. We have our own frames.
Yeah.
But through the metta practice, we are breaking those frames. We are breaking those boundaries. So that is how it becomes boundless. So metta ceto vimutti is that. So where we have broken all those boundaries, it is kind of seamless, boundless continuation of the spreading of metta. So that is the metta ceto vimutti.
In that chant where it says Avero home aniga home til, those two, aniga and the one after that, I always get mixed up with it, to the body and the mind, which is body. Can you just clarify the Pali? Avero home aniga home. Go home.
From hate, ani go home, I am free from suffering. Abhya pajja home, free from ill will.
Ill will, okay. So it's physical, first one is the physical suffering, and then the mental suffering of ani go home. No, sorry, abhya pajja home is mental suffering.
Yeah, mental suffering, ill will type of thing. But basically, I mean, whatever is more appealing to you. I mean, you don't need to exactly use the Pali words, but whatever is more appealing to you, whatever you feel strongly, is much useful. Now, say for you, if it is the English language, for you it is more appealing, more touch to your heart, then use that words. And if it is Sinhala, which is more appealing to you, use that words, because so that is the heartfelt quality that we need. We don't need to exactly use the Pali words.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah. Okay, you're welcome. So please practice a little bit of Satipatthana as well. Then you are not only, because metta, of course, is a good practice. At the same time, if you are connecting with mindfulness practice, then you are very much benefiting from both sides.
Yeah. Yes, but Satipatthana practice has been my main practice. Now I'm trying to add the metta into it. So, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Bhante, there's another question in the chat. Can I read that?
Okay.
Respected Bhante, how does Kamma relates to mindfulness?
No, actually, the one area is that when you are sort of developing mindfulness, so the possibility of doing unwholesome Kamma become less and less, because you become a responsible person, you become more sensitive person, and the mindfulness starts to operate as a monitoring capacity within you. So that monitoring capacity will help you to minimize unwholesome deeds. So it is not mere mindfulness, you are actually you're connecting clear comprehension into the picture, sati and sampajanya, sati and panya, the mindfulness and the wisdom is now going hand in hand. Now, more and more you do like that, moral dread and moral fear come to the picture. Now you feel that it's not good to do that. I can't continue that bad deed. It's giving me kind of a burden to the mind. So when I am meditating, it's coming to my mind. It is disturbing my mind. So it is someone else get disturbed because of my activity. So likewise, you start feeling that. You start feeling the impact of the unwholesome deed, assume that you were continuing a particular unwholesome deed, you start strongly feeling that impact. Now you can't continue the unwholesome deed. Now slowly you abandon that unwholesome deed. So the mindfulness practice in that sense, coupled with the clear comprehension, help us to abandon all the unwholesome deeds and to continue the wholesome deeds. So it is particularly mentioned in the Dhamma, Sati dovariko bhikkave ariya savako savajjam pajahati, anavajjam bhaveti. So savajjam pajahati means all the incorrect, all the unwholesome activities, now you are slowly abandoning. It is not only the mind purification, even the bodily activities, even the verbal activities which are unwholesome, now you feel. You are developing certain amount of moral shame and moral dread, hiri and ottappa. You can refer Sati Sampajanya Sutta, where Buddha mentioned, so Sati Sampajanya, when it is available, so this moral dread and moral fear, moral shame are the result of that. So as a result of that, now while moral dread and moral shame is available, you can't continue unwholesome deeds. You feel responsible. You feel burdened. You feel ashamed of doing something wrong. So the unwholesome deeds are abandoned. Unwholesome tasks, words, thoughts, as much as are abandoned. Now you are continuing the wholesome part, wholesome side, purifying side, the pure side.
Thank you, Bhante. Actually, Bhante, I have a question, like, just regarding this, how someone in Kamma, is it like, following like a eightfold path? Is it the supramundane level will lead to committing more Kamma, right? Can you explain?
Not committing Kamma, rather supramundane level helps to transcend the Kamma, to penetrate Kamma. Now you may continue to do wholesome deeds, but you are not claiming as myself. You are not trying to attribute it to a person, and you are doing it for the sake of doing it. Now, say for example, assume that you went and did the dana, you gave some alms to the monks. But the typical advice is, oh, now you need to recollect it again and again, think about it again and again, enjoy that. So that is one level where you are benefiting from that and you are enjoying on something what you have done, which is something wholesome what you have done. So that is one aspect. But again, when you are developing the vipassana practice, you may understand, okay, by reflecting as a person, if I am thinking about what I have done again, so that self-related thinking, self-centered thinking is promoting ignorance. It is going through a kind of an underneath wrong idea that there is a self here, there is a person here, there is an individual here. But through vipassana practice, you understood there is no self here, there is no person here, there is no being here, but the five aggregates are operating due to causes and conditions. So you are going through some thorough understanding about the impermanent, suffering, and non-self, particularly when you understand the non-self. So now you stop promoting self. Now you stop promoting I making or mind making, ahankara, mamankara. So rather than promoting it, rather you abandon that I making and mind making. So that volitional activities, which is based upon the kind of the wrong view that there is a self, is now abandoned. You continue to do various activities, but not promoting a self, not showing off, not making an individual, but maintaining a mind unattached. So how, now one interesting point we need to understand is, without grasping, you can't have a self. Without grasping, you can't have a I, myself, mine is not possible without grasping. There's a very interesting sutta called Ananda Sutta, where Venerable Ananda, with a lot of gratitude, mentioned that when he was a young monk, when he is new to the sasana, So he says, quite often, Venerable Punna Mantaniputta was a real Kalyana Mitta to me, and he often advised me, Upadayatiko auso asmiti hoti no anupadaya. So the asmi, the I, the self-view, happens only when mind is in a grasp state, when the mind is in an associated state, mind is in an entangled state, clinging state, not without it. So if we are able to maintain non-grasping state, unentangled state, uninvolved state, unestablished state, that is where there is no self. There is no individual operating at that level. There's a very relaxed, released, free state of mind is something that one is developing or maintaining. So that is, but still the various activities you are continuing. So you do all the other good activities, but without grasping, without holding, without associating anything. And there is no self in that level. So the intention in that sense is not there, even though the activities are continuing.
Yeah, thank you so much for your explanation, Bhante.
Thero
Thank you very much. Much merit to you, Bhante.